Hello and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes Sharini, your host. And I just returned from a really long trip, a couple of long trips this June. 2019 is what it is. So if you happen to be catching this later, you'll know when it is I'm talking about. And I'm recovering from laryngitis and some other stuff I picked up along the way on my actually very nice trip. Other than that, I went to the Southwest with a couple of other life coach friends, and we met up there from different parts of the country, and we had a fabulous time exploring. And we all, the three of us together, went to a conference that have featured Gregg Braden, who I call my intellectual crush, because when I found him, he just has shared so much great knowledge that I really appreciate. And I've mentioned him here on my broadcast before. And also Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I have not read as much about, and but he is in the same vein of thinking, and I really enjoyed his presentation as well. So now I have another one to be really excited about. And I will throw in there that I'm also a fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and between them and others that are sharing this message about the power that we have within us to manage and change and even affect the world around us, I think are really spreading some good information. And what I really appreciate about all three of them, and also including the HeartMath Institute, who also presented at this conference, is that they're not just saying, oh, go out and throw rose petals and everything's going to be happy. They're explaining the process. They're talking about how it works in your body and how to use it and how to do it and the scientific studies behind it. And that's the big thing that I really appreciate about HeartMath Institute and their work, is they're doing experiments and coming up with verifiable results with these processes that they're teaching and talking about that are actually ancient, but we just stopped using. Anyway, so what I want to share with you today is a little bit of what I brought back from that conference. A lot of it I had heard before and had practiced, but I don't think I've ever actually combined it here to talk about. So I'm thinking that what I'm going to do are two shorter sessions here with you all. The first one is more explanatory, and then my next episode will be talking about how to actually do some of these processes for yourself. And this sort of follows on with the episodes I've been doing, covering different processes and methods that I use with clients or that are out there being used for people to find either higher consciousness, more happiness, less anxiety, all sorts of wonderful ways that you can use these to achieve a happier and more fulfilling life, and really less worry and concern and more power over your environment and yourself. So that being said, the conference was held in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, and I've had Arizona on my list of places that I wanted to go for like 3 years. About 3 years ago, Sedona popped in my head, and I said, I want to go to Sedona. And we just never got there. And ironically, in the meantime, several people I know went to Sedona and came back, and I was very envious because it was something that had come to my mind, and I hadn't gotten there yet. So thanks to my co-coaching friend, Kim Guillory, that she suggested that we meet and go to this conference together in Sedona. So I got there. I was like, okay, I'm on. And we had a fabulous time spending time together. We went to Santa Fe and drove down to Sedona. And it really is beautiful. If you haven't seen it or haven't been there, it's famous for vortexes and aliens, I guess. I didn't see any aliens. If I did, they were disguised as humans. And they even have a map to where to find these vortexes, which are areas that have more electromagnetic power or energy associated with them. And, so I think we went to a couple of these, and I didn't notice anything different. Maybe I'm always in my own personal vortex anyway, so it might have evened things out. But it was lovely, and the landscape there is really quite different. And the town was very pleasant and not big, and the people were wonderful. And I actually stayed away from the tourist part of town. I didn't even find that until I was on my way out of town. And I said, oh, look, there's a touristy section. I was at the, I want to say, east end of town, maybe out by the convention center. And it was just peaceful and beautiful. And I enjoyed walking around the beautiful red rocks and area and enjoying the atmosphere. So that being said, we spent 4 days in the conference, a full day with Joe Dispenza, just full of information and great energy, and then a weekend with multiple speakers, including Gregg Braden, at least I think 3 times, and the days were day and night. Like there was conference time in the day, we had lunch, then back to conference, we had dinner, and back to something. So it was packed full of information and presenters, and I'd like to name them all, but there were several, and they all had some wonderful stuff to share, and I was really grateful to be able to be there. Now, what all of these people had to share, I would really recommend, they travel all over the world, and this was one of the rare occasions to get to see Joe Dispenza and Gregg Braden together here in the U.S., because they do travel the world, and they're often overseas together and not so much in the U.S. They have their own rotations, I guess, here in the U.S. So it was nice to be able to spend time with both of them, and I finally got to meet my, like I said, intellectual crush and shake his hand and have a few words with him. So happy to meet Gregg Braden. I did not get the opportunity to meet Joe Dispenza and shake his hand and drool and talk about how, the funny thing is, it's like I'm just, in love with their minds, right? So don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be drooling on other parts. Not that he doesn't deserve it. Okay, this is going the wrong way. Okay, I mean, he's droolable, right? But I just really appreciate their thinking and their minds and the intelligence that they share. So that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so what I want to share is some of what they had to share, and I certainly can't do it as eloquently or detailed as they did with as much information. But like I was about to say, I would highly recommend, if you ever have an opportunity to go hear either of them speak, take it. And you don't even have to do that. They have several books out. They're on YouTube. They have programs you can buy and download as well. So I am just trying to share some of the same information that they do. And I'd like to say we're on the same wavelength, and they've got more documentation and scientific backup for what I know is true. I just, not being a scientist, that's why I appreciate them doing the hard work to prove what I often am sharing with people about intuition and about trusting your gut and about going with your heart, because that's what they're proving, that it's all true. So that being said, the big thing they shared and talked about was about the intelligence of the heart. So most of us, I'm going to share right here, a lot of what they talked about, and also what I've probably talked about before to a degree. Most of us we think with our head that everything's from the head, from the brain, but each of our organs has some neural capability, and the heart has its own thinking neurons, heart neurons, and it also has a field of energy. So when it comes to us believing that our brain is the big boss, our brain does certainly manage a lot of things. It specifically manages our processes, our breathing and our heart rate to a degree, right? But it also doesn't necessarily manage the part that is about our gut instinct, our intuition, our emotions, our feelings, our relationships. It doesn't, that's where the thinking brain gets in the way, because our thinking brain will rationalize things to death with never really knowing the real feeling. So our brains don't feel, our brains interpret. Our hearts feel. Down here, our viscera, our guts have emotions. And so between the brain and the gut level, we come in here and it becomes interpreted into a feeling. So one of the things that Gregg mentioned was that our gut feeling is either coming from fear or from love, from feeling safe and compassionate and love-filled, or from fear, which will produce anger and hatred because there's a fear of something that's either different or attacking, right? So there's fear or there's love, and it's down here. And then up here is the what translates, what is that? It comes up with a word. And then in between, we come up with a feeling. And the feeling might be compassion, gratitude, angst, anxiety, right? So I don't know how well I can explain that. Like I said, go read one of their books and they can put it together better for you. But that being said, when you get into your heart, when you can bring your this level and this level into the heart and combine all of your elements of you, this is like the meeting place, and this is where you'll find your truth, your answers, your answers that can't be denied, that are innate and intuitive. And the heart has intelligence, and there's so many ways that we just we dismiss it or don't believe it or don't even recognize it, or people don't even think about your heart having intelligence. Now, just to kind of give you some evidence of the idea of the heart having an intelligence and a memory that stays within it somehow on its own, when someone passes away, their heart continues to beat without the brain telling it to. For a certain period of time, it continues to beat. When someone takes the heart from a donor and it is transplanted, there are several stories of the recipient all of a sudden having feelings, memories, thoughts, cravings that are not their own, that have no association with their past. And there was a doctor, I've made a note of it, Paul Pearsall. He wrote a book called The Heart's Code, where he compiled stories of heart recipients having these experiences. And in that book, there is one particular story that made the news of a little girl around 8 years old who had received the heart of a 10-year-old donor who had been murdered. But she started having nightmares about the experience that the other little girl had had. And she was able to remember them vividly enough through the nightmares that came with the heart, the memory that came with the heart, to describe enough detail that they found and caught the man who had murdered the donor. And so, evidence like that of this memory and intelligence that's carried within the heart organ is pretty fascinating. And how that is explained is by the idea of entanglement, that when something's been combined next to each other together, that it always maintains some piece of that they are never separate. And for a much bigger picture of that is, and I have talked about this before in one of my, about talking about intuition and psychic abilities, is that we are all as a whole combined and one. And many cultures, many religions will refer to that idea that, of course, at one point we were all one little speck, then we spread out. But we are connected by the field that is still part of all of us. And it's hard for us to picture that because we focus on the material world and we think of things as being solid and that this space around me has nothing in it. But it's part of the field, it's part of us, it's just not visible. And again, I am repeating myself on that part. If you've listened to my previous episodes, I talk about that a lot, that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So the heart and entanglement with the previous donor carried over to the recipient in many cases. And I'm sure there are many cases where no one reports anything just because all of a sudden they kind of like a food that they didn't used to like, or dislike something they used to like, or have different tastes or like different colors that they might not really take note of. But it would be interesting to any listeners out there, if they know of any donors and recipients, and they've had a change since receiving a different organ, if they've had some sort of change in their life or tastes or thoughts and that sort of thing. If you know, I'd be interested. You can find me on Facebook. You can respond to me on email, which you'll find through here someplace. Anyway, you know where to find me. So I'm looking at my notes because I want to try to go in some sort of order today. So the heart has the neurons, and our brain and our heart and our whole body, we are electric, right? We run on electric and electromagnetic fields come from us. And you've probably seen one of those diagrams that has I think it's called a torus field that goes around certain areas and how big or small it can get. And that's also an example of when someone does an aura reading, that this field goes out beyond us. Or when someone says they can see your aura, that they see this resonating energy that comes off of you. So in talking about the power and the strength that the heart has, our heart is 100 times stronger and bigger in the field of electrical field that comes out beyond us electrically than our brain. And it's 5,000 times stronger and bigger with the electromagnetic field that comes out beyond us. So the field of your mind or your brain is out to here, and your heart's way out there. And so that would also help explain why it's so prevalent, maybe to feel somebody, to feel someone's energy, like they say when you walk in a room, if it's that powerful, and to think that the higher your emotion, it may even, spread more or spread less, depending on what sort of emotion is going on. And it spreads, and then people pick that up, and it can transfer between people. And it is one of the explanations for, mob mentality. They talk about mentality, but it's an energy of feeling that is going out that people can pick up on and behave in ways they wouldn't, but they're with the mob, right? They're doing, it's not themselves, they're picking up this other energy, and it's all being combined. One example of this shared resonance from the heartfelt area was after 9/11, within about 15 minutes after 9/11, when the news had spread around the world, there was a spike in the electromagnetic readings all around the world on these monitors that measure this. And it was significant enough to show that particular time, that particular day, it had a spike from the coincidence, the synchronicity of that event that happened, and so many people were responding and having an emotional response to it at that time. So now that we understand the idea of the brain having a certain field of energy that comes out from it energetically from our electrical and electromagnetic beings, and the heart being that much bigger. I want to talk about how that can spread and move on and be combined. Like I talked about the mob mentality, or that sort of walk into a room feeling. Well, like I said, this area is not empty. And then between me and the building over there, or between one room and the next, even across the world, that with this entanglement, that this energy can travel without need for time and space. And we are so in our time and space world here, in our material world, that again, it's difficult maybe for you to comprehend or picture it. But picture that as you look at me, and as you look at your computer or your phone or whatever you're watching this in, or whatever you're hearing me on, already that's a little easier because I am just sound waves when you're hearing me. And when you look at me, I am just electrical impulses being sent through the airwaves. I'm not really sitting there, right? So that might even help you get that leap toward understanding that everything is energy. And in our material world, our experience of that energy is dense and matter-like, and yet it hurts if we run into it because we're also in that physical state. But if you could picture everything moving and wiggling and connected and bouncing around, that here in the air, most people will admit that there are air molecules and they're bouncing off each other unseen. But our molecules, our energetic molecules can bounce out and interact with that we can energetically interact with the molecules and the energy around us. So instead of thinking it as a solid little thing, it's a wave of energy that can flow in and out between us and out into the world around us. And this field, we've all heard of the matrix, right? And the word matrix, the term matrix, to talk about the field of energy that is all around us and between everything that has no definition other than it fills the empty space, which is not empty, was coined by Max Planck back in 1944. So it's not just some movie that was made. It's not just some made-up word. It was brought up by a scientist, quantum physicist, who created that word to explain that there's a sort of like an invisible mesh-like grid and matrix that combines and ties us all together. And once again, there's entanglement with that. So in that matrix, we can share and receive energetic information. And what I'm going to leave till next time is how we can use that energetic information to send out healing, to heal ourselves, to manage our own inner world through our heart and heart rate variability. And so since that's a bit of a longer thing that will tie healing and personal wellness and energy managing and manifesting together, I'm going to leave that for the next episode. And at this point, I just want to introduce the power of the heart, the intelligence of the heart, the field of the heart, and the field around us, and how they can actually interact, and how you can start to think about it that way and then take some personal power and use it for yourself. So I'll see you next time when I explain how to use your heart to get more in touch with yourself and your own intuition and wellness. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi, and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes-Shirini, your host. And this is part 2 of the intelligence of the heart. I had recorded part 1 and put that up just recently, and then I had another episode of something else in between. So this is the part 2 that I promised you, where I would actually tell you how to do the process of creating heart, mind, body coherence. And I just finished last week my certification with the HeartMath Institute as a what is the name of it? Ad Heart facilitator. And what I wanted to share about this is, it sounds frilly, but there is a lot of science behind this process. There's over 25 years of research through the HeartMath Institute, and also over 280 papers that have been published with the HeartMath Institute information or something related to that heart rate variability, and what I'm talking to you today about. As a matter of fact, there was one of those was in the Harvard Medical School publication, and it talked about it in there, and how it's one of the really useful ways that you can monitor and improve your own health by paying attention to your heart rate variability. So, as you know, we tend to think of the heart as something soft and not scientific, I guess. Of course, it's scientific. It pumps our blood. It keeps us alive. But in terms of part of our body that we can kind of think with and focus on to make ourselves healthier and use to make better decisions, it doesn't really make the cut sometimes. And way before science came in, where we had to see something to believe it, this was using your heart and using intuition was much the basis of many decisions and choices. People would, if they didn't feel in touch with their own answers, it was quite normal to have someone, say on the king's court, that was their soothsayer, their person that was psychic or gave some sort of intuitive advice. And then it got looked down on as, I don't want to go too big history here, but as religion and the churches began to want more power, then that access, direct access to our intuitive powers was demonized. And it was that you had to go through the churches to have that sort of access. But we always have had this access available to us. And it got demonized, and scientific proof came along that if you couldn't see it, you couldn't measure it, then it was woo-woo and not real. And luckily for humanity, for all of us, that science is coming around to a point where they are proving that there is a power in our heart, that there are neurons in our heart, that our heart is actually a information processor in our body that sends signals to the brain, receives from the brain, and also sends signals throughout the body. And that a lot goes on in the heart that we didn't know about many years before. And now they can measure it, they can see it, and they can see the evidence of how it affects our minds and bodies, and even people around us. So let me get into that. The heart does have neurons, and I talked about this in part 1, so you want to go back to part 1 and listen to that, or you can probably stay here and catch a little bit of a recap. But the heart has neurons. It has sort of a brain of its own, and I think they're finding that many organs have their own types of neurons. So, but the heart is a very powerful organ in our body, and it does process information for us. And it is a bit of a conduit between mind and body. And, interestingly so, it is sort of placed in the center here. It has a power that sends electromagnetism 3 feet away from our body in 360 degrees. So it's sort of like a bubble of energy that it surrounds us with and sends out to those around us. And as I mentioned in part one, that we feel that if we are paying attention. Sometimes you walk into a room or you're standing near someone and you either feel drawn toward them, you feel comfortable and safe around them, or you get the heebie-jeebies and you're like, get me off this elevator, right? So everyone's probably felt that and not really thought about it, but that's part of this energy that we all give off. And it seems to be that electromagnetic energy that is shared by the heart. So getting to the idea of heart coherence and what that means, and this is what I'm going to be teaching you how to increase. Heart coherence is based on the rhythm of our heart rate, the intervals between the rhythms. So it's not about your heartbeat necessarily, it's how much the variation in your heartbeat changes within a certain period of time. So there's the heartbeat, but then there's the variation of the heartbeat. And at a lower number, a lower level of heart rate variability is associated with, I kept notes here, I don't think I really need them, but it's associated with anxiety, depression, it's associated with heart disease, and it's associated with a higher incidence of death and all sorts of other stuff. But it ties to that. So it's what it affects is your autonomic nervous system and everything that we don't have direct control of. We can't go in there and change it. However, through emotions, through breathing, through creating this higher level of heart rate variability, we can indirectly then help these things. So a high level of heart rate variability is associated with being more resilient, both physically and emotionally. So handling stress better, having higher level of health, lower cardiovascular problems, as well as living longer. So if that doesn't convince you, I will have a link in the title section down there with the description about how to go to the HeartMath Institute and find links to studies and more information. Or you could just even Google it and find unrelated references to what heart rate variability can increase in it, what it can do for you. Now, you're probably wondering, how do you measure it? How do you know, right? I'm going to show you a technique, and just the way you feel will probably tell you if it's making a change. But also there are some apps out there that you can do on your phone. You can go buy a monitor and it will tell you your variability as well as your heart rate. You can probably find these things in a drugstore. What I have is the HeartMath thing that clips on your ear, and it gives you feedback, and it connects to an app on your phone. And you, at the same time with this app, you can be intending positivity to yourself and the world around you. And this is one of their goals, is to increase the vibration that each of our little bubbles can send out, this energy, because we all are connected. And if we are sending out a healthy, happy, positive energy, then that increases around the world. And they are actually measuring the global heart rate variability, the global level. And so this app that they have, the HeartMath app, is interesting to watch. And you can download it anyway, even if you don't have the monitor, and take part and see how this happens. Now, backing up, so that's how you can measure it. It's a biofeedback, piece of a tool, and so if you are into watching the effects of trying something new like this, it's really cool to see the difference and see how you, by your own behavior, internal behavior, can change this output and recognize that it really does make a difference. And then even better, further down, start seeing those differences in your life. Lower anxiety, lessen depression, better health, and just generally feeling better overall. Now, I'm looking at my notes, see what order I wanted to go in here with y'all. Okay, so I think I'm ready to go ahead and explain. I'm going to show you a couple pictures here, though, before I go on, of my own record. I took a screenshot off my app of when I recently just put the clip on my ear and just began after coming in from a busy day, and it shows an image of what it looks like before I've practiced this technique, and then what it looks like after I've been practicing the technique for about 5 minutes. And as you can see, seeing the picture here, as you can see, the first image shows a little bit of an erratic, up and down scratchiness. And that was at the lower rate as I first began. And now the second image shows what it was like once I reached around 5 on the heart rate variability. And you can see that there's a wave. It's a gentler flowing wave. Okay, so as you can see from those two examples, that it's pretty much what it looks like too. If you're a little more wound up, a little more uptight, you just feel a little more jerky and not smooth and relaxed. And the image of the smoother wave is much more how you actually feel when you are doing the process or when you're done with it. It really helps carry over. Something else that they've seen is that just by doing this for about 2 minutes can sort of carry over and last longer, keeping you at a higher heart rate variability than if you hadn't done it at all. So it's like exercise, if you're familiar with the idea that it keeps your heart rate higher for a little while, and that is part of the benefit of the calorie burning and all of that. So this as well has a lasting effect. It's not just while you're doing it, it has a lasting effect. And if you did something like this even once a day, it can benefit you. Sometimes, depending on you, it's like I said, it's 2 minutes. You could practice this first thing in the morning and as you go to bed, or some of the other great times to do it, to bring yourself into alignment, into coherence, where you're not feeling uptight, where you can lower anxiety and feel more comfortable, is say you're on your way into an important meeting, or you're having a bad day and you just need a 2-minute break, or even a 10-second break will make a big difference. Just taking those breaths. Coming home from a tough day, you know how they have the thing where the guy comes home and he kicks the dog, he yells at the kids, or the mom does, right? And so before you have to switch gears from that work mind mentality of being uptight and go, go, go before you get home, and it's your time to be you with your family or relax, while you're driving home, you can do this process. You don't have to close your eyes before you leave the office, before you walk in the door. So I think anything that helps you be happier, more comfortable, that can naturally help reduce disease and anxiety and depression, I think is wonderful. And that's why I'm on here sharing this with you, so that you can use it, you can tell people about it, share my video. Once you've learned it, show other people. It's really elegantly simple. It's so simple, very much like another process I use that's an energy work. It's so simple that people might dismiss it, but how great is that? It's easy to do, it's simple, and it works. So what is the process? Okay, so the process is And I'll describe it, and then I might just lead you through it right here so that you'll actually take a couple minutes to do it. But first I'll describe it. The process is to first focus on your heart. Just that area right here. I don't want to touch my microphone too much, but that area right here, your heart center. So you'll focus on your heart and maybe even touch it so that your awareness goes to that spot. Tap it, touch it, but focus on your heart. And then you imagine yourself breathing in and out of your heart. Instead of up here, imagine that breathing coming in and out of your chest area, your heart area. And then you're going to slow your breathing down to about 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, something slower than normal. And after you've done that for a few minutes, you're going to continue breathing in that way, and then add feeling, actually recalling and feeling, not just thinking of something, but feeling gratitude, care, or love, something that is a regenerative, happy, positive feeling for you. You might think of your pet or your kids. You might be just simply grateful for a beautiful day, whatever it is that can help you have an uplifting, good, positive feeling. And then following that, you're going to send that feeling of grateful, care, love, energy that's positive throughout your body from head to toe, and picture it just flowing through you. And then you will send that out around you into your magnetic, electromagnetic field and beyond. You can think of your neighborhood, you can think of someone you love, you can send it out to your community, you can send it out to the world, the earth, our cosmos, but it's going from in here and then sending it outward. So now I'm going to actually lead you through that process. Okay, so go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position. And as you're sitting there, you can touch or put your hand on your heart, or just focus on the heart area of your chest. And as you're focusing on that area, imagine that your breath is coming in and out of that area, in and out of your heart. And as you do that, slow down your breathing to inhaling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And continue breathing to the count of 5 in and 5 out. And as you breathe at that rate, in and out of your heart, bring to mind and bring to your body a feeling of gratitude or compassion, care or love. And you might think of someone you love dearly, or a pet, or the feeling you have when you're out in nature or the beach. But allow your body to feel this wonderful feeling. Then you have the difference of feeling it in your body rather than just remembering something. And if this is a difficult step for you, just do your best and continue to practice. And when you have that feeling, and choose something or someone that you don't have a conflict with at this moment, but something that only brings that wonderful feeling. What we're after here is that good feeling inside of your body, that good emotion. And as you experience that positive emotion with the slowed breathing in and out of your heart. Just be there in that space. And just allow it to flow through your body. Imagine that feeling flowing all the way through your body, every cell, every inch of your body from the top to the bottom. That positive, good feeling and emotion spreads through you as you continue to breathe slowly in and out of your heart. And now it expands. As it is in your body, it also expands beyond you, out and around you. Flowing into that electromagnetic field around you and beyond. And you can send that positive emotion out through that field to a person, a place, a community. You can share that positive emotion and energy now beyond yourself. Okay, and now we can finish this. And I just wanted to give you that little taste of the experience and take you through the steps so you could practice it yourself, because there's always being told how something works, but thinking, oh, I'll try that later. So this way you get to try it now and very briefly. And I hope you found that a positive little break and experience, and you see how easy it would be to do. And that last step of sending it through yourself or out beyond yourself is not even necessary for your own personal benefit. Even just the step of breathing at 5-second intervals in and out of your heart space benefits you. And then generating that positive emotion adds and benefits you. Those two steps alone are really useful to your mind and body. And then beyond that, sending that throughout yourself and beyond yourself benefits you even further, as well as benefits those around you. So I hope you will take time to check out the HeartMath Institute. And like I like to say here, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And they are showing that this unseen energy can benefit us, and we can harness it to make a better world for ourselves and those around us. All right, thank you, and I will see you next time on Intuitive Journey with Desiree. Thanks for being here. Bye.